When a clinician first speaks of formal diagnosis, a specific kind of silence often settles over the room. It marks the moment an abstract struggle becomes a documented medical reality. This moment carries a complex duality. The relief of finally naming an invisible predator is shadowed by the immediate concern that this name will become a permanent fixture of your life. Within many faith communities, this weight is compounded by a specific theological anxiety. Many people suffer in silence, wondering if their psychological pain is actually a metric of their own personal sin. This leads to a persistent fear of being categorized as spiritually immature. There is a concern that a clinical ailment will be interpreted by others as a lack of devotion or a failure of prayer. When we allow a medical label to function as our primary identity, our focus narrows. We fall into a pattern of excessive introspection, where we perceive ourselves as fundamentally damaged, which slowly erodes our capacity for hope. We have to evaluate whether a clinical diagnosis is meant to define the essence of a person or simply describe the symptoms they are currently navigating. Relying solely on a clinical framework misses the spiritual dimension of our design. Understanding our suffering requires looking at how we were created to function in relation to God and others. Isolation is a frequent byproduct of a diagnosis. However, mental health flourishes in the context of community, the environment we were originally designed to inhabit. Reconciling clinical facts with our spiritual foundation ensures that a medical label remains a piece of information rather than a life sentence. The ability to study human behavior and develop medicine is a practical expression of mercy. These scientific tools allow us to investigate and address the brokenness found in the human experience. Systems like the DSM-5-TR provide a standardized assessment, organizing chaotic symptoms into a common language for consistent care. Categorization offers proof that a private struggle is a shared reality. Modern diagnostics also account for genetic predispositions and social environments shaping our lives. However, these systems have limitations. Used as the sole measure, they risk turning natural suffering into a list of pathologies. Clinical systems excel at mapping the mechanics of how we suffer. They can describe the clinical malfunction, but they cannot define the inherent value of the person experiencing it. From a biblical perspective, suffering is a universal consequence of a broken world. Since the fall, every human experiences some level of biological, psychological, and spiritual frailty. Scripture makes a vital distinction. While sin introduced suffering to the world, a specific psychological impairment is not necessarily a sign of personal wrongdoing. Biblical history provides clear evidence in Job and the man born blind. Their profound suffering was completely disconnected from personal choices. Because humans are an interconnected union of flesh and spirit, the brain, a biological organ, is subject to physical ailments common to all. Removing the stigma of spiritual weakness allows for a clearer path to recovery. It permits people to seek the specific medical and psychological help they need without the burden of misplaced guilt. An integrated approach to care recognizes that we are whole beings. To address the spirit while ignoring the body, or to treat the mind while ignoring the spirit, is to provide incomplete care. This holistic view is necessary because our biological and spiritual lives are constantly influencing one another. Our foundational identity is rooted in theological anthropology. Long before any clinical symptoms emerge, every individual is an intentional bearer of God's image, designed with inherent worth. A diagnosis functions as a standardized assessment to understand and treat symptoms, but it does not determine a person's value. Engaging with professional medical treatment is an active partnership with the knowledge God provides to restore what is broken. Psychological suffering is an undeniable reality, but it's not the final word on who you are. Your identity is grounded in a design that remains intact, providing a source of hope that persists through the diagnostic process.